Good evening, good evening, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for tuning in to another Real Estate Live with Hugo Quintanilla. Today, it is Unlocking the Secrets of Real Estate Listings, a must-watch guide for every home buyer and home seller. So feel free to stick around and share this live with anyone that you know that might want to learn a little bit more about real estate and how it can benefit you and those around you. As always, I am your realtor, Hugo, with Long and Foster, North Potomac, Rockville, and we are live on all your favorite platforms on YouTube, on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, X, and Twitch.com. So today we are going to be unlocking the secrets of real estate listings, a must-watch guide for every home buyer and seller. And again, I thank you so much for tuning in. Number one for tonight is an introduction to real estate listings. What are real estate listings? Well, first and foremost, they are the way that we formally announce a property for sale. It is a basically bill of health for a property that says that the property is being offered at this amount. It has this much space. These are the facts that we know about it. And this is how soon the property can be made available to the next owner. So if there are any other snags, so to speak, in the sense that there might be any paperwork or any liens or anything that might be pending on the property, that could all be there on the listing. But it could also be off the listing. The listing is public. It's usually seen by aggregate websites, realtors, real estate agents, the public. Listings go live and are forever. So once a listing is out there, the pictures, the information, all the data that's out there stays there forever. It is very difficult to scrub off the internet, especially with aggregate websites. You might be able to get it off of your main site and remove the images. But if aggregate websites are not disclosing how they keep your data, they can be using your images into perpetuity. So it's difficult. Don't approve anything when it comes to pictures or information about your listing until you are sure that that's what you want out there, because once it's out there, it one can be a little bit difficult to correct, but two, it stays out there. And you want to avoid confusion when it comes to buying and selling properties. But I digress. Why are they important for buyers and sellers? For buyers, it shows more than anything else how the property is at the time that they bought it. That as a buyer, they know upfront what they're walking into, which is, as always, as I've always said, a very different situation than finding out or being surprised that, hey, something's broken or something's not there. For sellers, it's a very easy, common practice that helps get the most eyes on their property as soon as possible. It's been done for hundreds of years. So, you know, it's a very easy way to get their properties out on an open market very quickly, and we've built an industry around it. Where can you find these listings? In a multiple listing server or an MLS. Service as well can be the S, but these databases are a collection of public information as well as tax information, insurance information. They can really go very in depth depending on the MLS that you are a part of. But the MLS system will compile all this information together and make it very easy for realtors and real estate professionals to use it. More than anything, these services come with a fee and membership, and after that you pretty much have access to all this information. When you work with a realtor or real estate professional, you tend to get that information directly from them through the listings that they send to you. But when you are doing these transactions on your own, say that you venture out to do it, you can still buy and sell on the MLS. You just fall under a different category, an unaffiliated category. And that's a very particular case. Usually, to put into a multiple list server, you have to be a member. And for that, you usually have to have some sort of membership into the organization. And that's usually at a cost. Most people don't want to pay those costs that are trying to list properties on their own. So that's how we have a whole market of discount brokerages and Zillow and iBuyers and all this other stuff, because there will always be a market for a bottom dollar practice where people will perform a service and just get it done. There is a market for it, and that's, you have to admit that, you know. But number two, understanding listing types. What's the difference between for sale, pending, and sold listings? For sale sounds very obvious. It is available. Uh, Again, for sale can mean that it might not be immediately available. And I'll, specify that, hey, a property can be for sale, but maybe they might be talking to somebody. Maybe they might have some offers. Maybe there might be a deadline. So usually realtors will talk to each other and communicate and just answer these questions up front about what's happening with the property so that they can get the best offer on these homes. Pending tends to mean that the property has accepted an offer and is locked in. They are not taking any more offers, even though you can still technically present in Maryland, here where I'm licensed. You can present all the way up to the closing table. But do you really want to fight for a home that much? Again, I understand certain situations, schools, if that's the case, that's the case. But I have heard of very extreme outlier cases, and this is possibly an urban legend at this point, but of people paying people to walk away from a contract so that they can purchase a home in a certain district or in a certain place. So it can happen. Does it happen often? No. That's, selling sunset drama. At the end of the day, it is about getting the offer to the table, and most real estate professionals will do everything in their power to make sure that the sure thing takes them there. So sold typically means just that, sold. And there is one more category that's not immediately on here: under contract, or contingent is the other word they like to use. But the three main types for a property are either you're locked in, you're sold, or you're looking for a buyer. But contingency means that basically the property has accepted an offer, but there needs to be a certain condition met before the property is finally sold. What condition can that be? That can be a home inspection, that can be an appraisal, and that can take anywhere from a week to 2 weeks to get done. So you have to take your time and remember that a contingent property might go back on the market. Now, do you want to wait for it to go back on the market? Probably not. Contingent offers usually are a little bit more flexible and negotiable. If you feel very strongly the way you did about that pending home, about an under contract home or a contingent home like that, I would say it's a better shot to go for one of those and try to shoot for it than for one of the pending ones. Because pending, they're pretty much sure that this is where they're going to go. With a contingent one, you can always negotiate the terms because you still have not negotiated away all the terms. And a clean contract with zero contingencies might still have a leg up on a contract with many contingencies, or it might slip in as a backup offer if the selling agent feels that this first offer might fall through because of the contingencies. Being second sometimes in the situation of real estate is not a bad thing. It just, you have to keep in mind that you could get that call and you have to be ready to buy it. How do foreclosures and short sale listings work? So foreclosures are, usually the person tends to not be able to pay, and they are foreclosed upon by a tax entity or a mortgage broker. So At that point, the property is sold off at cost, and usually it's approved by a third party. At the other point of short sales, that's the point where the person is still in the property and it's sold prior to them going into full blown foreclosure. It's a little bit further ahead in the process, and they can be great opportunities. Both can be great opportunities for someone to come in and get a home, possibly at a discount. Now, I say possibly because a lot of these homes, we have to think about the mindset of these people when they left these homes. They were probably weren't paying their bills. They probably weren't taking care of the home. They probably have all these things pending to do on their own things in their own lives. So, who's to say that the home's going to be in great shape? On top of that, I've been really having a lot of discord about um, how expensive it can be to own a home, and how maybe getting a home might have not been the best thing for a lot of people to do in the last 2 years. There are a lot of people suffering with properties right now. You might not immediately think, hey, they're not doing all that great after they bought their house. Buying a house and during that time was great, but there were a lot of people that jumped into it, possibly not having everything they needed to make ends meet. So before getting into foreclosure or short sale, I would highly suggest that you sell the property. In this day and age, right now in this area, you are looking like you're going to come off with some sort of profit. But even if it's just holding on to it 4 years, it's more than enough time to make some sort of profit on the property and move away into another one. Now, are the interest rates going to be different? Absolutely. But if this is hindering your growth and your development in your life, your home, then you need to refigure things out, because maybe owning a home is not the best thing for you. That's why we really highly prepare people to get ready to buy, because it's a whole mentality shift and you have to be ready. Sometimes you can't just be convinced into buying a home because everyone is doing it. It really, stuff like that is really an easy way to get into trouble very quickly. So, number three, deciphering property types. What distinguishes a single family home from a condo or townhouse? Well, single family home, sorry for the descriptor, is typically a detached property that is by itself. It's not meant to be just for a single family. It's just that's the term that was typically used. But it tends to be a detached home that is by itself. And you can live in there. It's just its own home. You're responsible for everything that's on the land as well as the building. Now, for a condo, it's typically a space inside of a larger building that's secure or has some sort of common area or amenity, and that all falls in line with the rules of that building, and you're responsible just for the inside of the space. A townhouse, it's kind of a combination of the comfort of a condo and the uh, property structure of a detached home. A townhouse is, I would say, almost half the size. There's a lot less land, but it can be a great entry point into someone that needs more room, but has grown beyond the space that a condo can provide. A condo can only provide so much room, while as a townhouse can really bring up a lot more equity and give you a lot more flexibility and affordability. Number three, how do property types affect your lifestyle and responsibility as a homeowner? Well, first and foremost, the detached home, the single family home, is going to be a lot more expensive. You're responsible for everything on the land, off the land, who's on the land, if someone gets hurt on the land. And then on top of that, you're responsible for the home, everything in the home, on the home, everywhere. It can get really pricey if you don't do an inspection and don't check out your stuff. Now, the condo is a lot more cost effective in a sense, but typically they come with their own fees. So you have to keep that in mind, that if you're paying this property, the appreciation is less. Yes, there is slightly less growth in the long term, but there's still growth, but you are paying a fee, and that can cut into your cash flow amount. But condos, again, can be a great entry point. And townhouses, again, are right there in between. It's the expense of having the building, with a few exceptions, that you are sometimes not responsible for common areas, not responsible for the roof, not responsible for common walls. It can be one of those things where it could be a lot more shared cost. But by the same token, anything with shared elements, you're relying on the people around you. So that can be a little bit more expensive when you have unruly neighbors. That can really hurt property values more than anything else. Number 4, reading between the lines, listing descriptions. What are some common phrases in listings, and what do they really mean? Cozy might mean small. Yeah, we all have seen these words. It really comes down to the agent, I would say, because what you'll notice is a lot of agents have a very similar style of writing their listings. And I know, as a client, as a customer, it's very difficult to go and see agents' ways of writing. But I didn't realize how many walks of life agents came from till I saw some of these descriptions, and I saw how many descriptions were so crazy ridiculous, and how many of them were just so vaguely blunt. It really, you see all of it. But at the end of the day, keywords to look for are, if they're new, anything new refers to never been used. If it says new and it's been used, it's not new. Now, other key things are elements descripted out and written out. You always want to keep an eye out more than anything else, because at least as real estate professionals, we are expected to have a certain level of etiquette when it comes to the way that we advertise properties. I can't tell you that I have a pool when I don't. I can't tell you that, like, this is the Taj Mahal when it isn't. At the end of the day, you have to see the properties. That's why we always recommend that you see your property, or have someone that you trust with the power of attorney see the property for you, so that you know what you're purchasing. Because if you're an out-of-state investor investing here, it can get very tricky in certain areas, especially if you go in some places where you're not too familiar. Now, how can you spot potential red flags in descriptions? That's a tricky one, because I'll tell you, more than anything, you don't see red flags nowadays because of the way that we have rewritten the rules on descriptions. The MLS system is very strict on what you can write and how you write it and where the stuff is put. So I would say, more than anything, what red flags could you see? Something that really focuses on everything but the property, I would say, is a red flag. A description that also possibly is too vague. A description that's not updated, I would also be another red flag. For example, it has a deadline for, like, a certain day, and it hasn't been updated. It still says a certain day, and it's been months, weeks. I've seen cases where it's been months later, and it's still the deadline sitting there, and it's just that hurts my soul, because it's just, I can't believe that no one has said anything to them, or why they haven't changed it. I'm like, and then you try to act in grace, because sometimes it's not their fault, so maybe something happened to them, maybe they got sick. And that's something big I learned during the pandemic, was that you just don't know what the other side of the line might be doing. So you have to be conscious of that sometimes. You have to meet people where they are. So really, I can't say there are any real red flags in descriptions. more than anything else, the red flags would be in the pictures. The importance of square footage and lot size. How does square footage affect a home's value and usability? A higher square footage can lead to a higher cost. Obviously, more square feet of structure, you're going to have a bigger building, more maintenance, but overall, more equity, more benefit, more home. Why is understanding lot size important for future home extension and use? Lot size, more than anything else, is important for your particular jurisdiction because it actually determines how much more you can expand. And today starts the new ADU, accessory dwelling unit, that can be added in Maryland. So, for example, there'll be places that are going to try to get permits for these additional extensions that might not have enough land to build on. So if they do, they'll build on it. But if they don't, they'll have to get denied. And yeah, it's gonna be a very interesting thing to see all these new structures come up, and hopefully all these new build outs, because it's gonna bring some extra additional value and additional living space to these homes. And like we've been saying over and over and over again, we're seeing more and more people live in multi generational homes instead of selling or purchasing their own. Number six, unpacking price per square foot. Why does price per square foot tell you about property value? Price per square foot is, again, the value of the location, quote unquote, in taxes relative to the square footage of your home. And it's usually on a tax assessed value. So it is in reference to an estimated value of your home. And that is a ballpark number. You can't really get that down to the cent, and everyone is going to have a different square footage number, but you can get a relative square footage for the city, just because they do the taxes and do everything. So from there, it's really a matter of the added value that the home might have. If there's an added element that might bring more to the property than the square footage can allow. But square footage, higher square footage, means that it costs more per square foot to build there. It can be better of an investment, but it can also be a worse investment. So going just by square footage alone might not be the only price. On square footage alone might not be the best way to do it, because you have to justify the price of why the square footage is so much. How can you use the metric to compare properties? I kind of preface that a little bit. More than anything else, you want to compare why this square footage here is relative to this square footage here, and why I should buy here. Why is it valued this much? Why is this condo in DC so much more expensive than this single family home over in Frederick? Well, you're right there by the nation's capital. Well, you're over there by who knows where. So it's little things like that, play a factor into it. Number seven, navigating home features and amenities. How can specific features or amenities like swimming pools influence a home's appeal and price? Well, obviously, if you have a townhouse or a condo situation where you have a pool, have tot lots, have other amenities like that, it is a great selling point when it comes time to selling a property. And it's nothing that you really have to purchase or do or upkeep on your own. And when it comes to having a single family home and having to do that your own, yeah, you do. You know how many properties you've gone and seen your friend, and they've set up that, tree house for their kids, or that jungle gym for their, significant other to come through. And it's there. It's at your cost. You're putting it up. You're taking it down. They sell it at Home Depot and Lowe's. It's right there, and you have to make it. But at the end of the day, that comes at your cost. A swimming pool, if you put it on your own lot of land, that comes at your cost. When it is part of the amenities in your community, you don't have to pay for it. So it really reduces some of the added value, added expense, without sacrificing any of the value. What are some or most excuse me, what are some must-have features for your lifestyle or family needs? And that, more than anything else, should be what drives the choice of what amenities you pursue. Do you need tot lots? Do you need a lot of walking? Do you need a swimming pool? Do you need a gym? These are all things that if they live with your lifestyle, if they work for you, if they save you money in the long run, save you time, give you more quality of life, more peace of home, then I would much rather spend money there than have to be in a place where I have to spend all these extra fees and things just to get my family the same benefits. It just really comes on to a long term view of what is it that we're looking after? What is it we're driving towards? We want a property that's within our value, that's within our range of, budget, and we want something that's going to meet our needs, something that might meet our needs maybe for the next 10 years. But at the end of the day, we know that this home might not be our forever home. If it is, great. But it 9 times out of 10, it's not. So you have to look at these as business transactions and the fact that it needs to match your needs now. Number 8, the significance of location and neighborhood. How does the location affect your property's desirability and price? Again, I'm going back to my example of Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. is a very sought after area. So obviously, it's going to be a lot higher price. Again, let's bring it back to Maryland. We have Rockville, Maryland, that has gone up in price substantially in the last 5 years. So places like that are booming. We have another great opportunity if we want to go further out into Frederick. Frederick has boomed because everyone that couldn't move into Montgomery County moved out into Frederick. And now we're seeing Frederick have huge developments and movements to build out great projects out in Frederick. So we're seeing great stuff out there. Um, Location, you want to think about in terms of long term. Neighborhood, you want to think about in short term. Do you feel comfortable living there? Location, do you like the things that are happening around you? Really, the best way I can tell you. What should you consider about a neighborhood before making an offer? School, safety, amenities. I think you should consider everything. I tell my clients to go out there, see the property multiple times, actually spend time in the community, talking to people, walking their dogs, and seeing if they feel comfortable there, if they identify with the community, because it's going to be your home. Hopefully, we do it right and you're going to be there a long time, or at least choose to hold on to it for your portfolio. But if you don't, then at least buy something that will be a good return on your value. And we need you to understand that. We need you to understand what you're purchasing. So I suggest it. Now, do I have clients that do it and don't do it? Yeah, obviously I do. Now, do they tell me if they do it or don't do it? I don't know. I tell them, hey, go out there. You should do this. You should do this. You should do this. At a certain point, I can only give you the information. I can't make you go out there and study this place. So you have to know what you're purchasing. You're the one that's going to be investing. Okay. I can only guide you. If you need a certain school, that's something that you need to keep in mind, that schools do change. So keep that in mind. Safety, if you safety is a high concern for you, make sure that you're doing the lookup on the reports. I can give you the websites to your local jurisdiction, but I cannot talk to you about it because you have to look into that if that's important to you. From my standpoint, there's crime anywhere and everywhere at all times. There are bad people everywhere. The best thing you can do is protect yourself and secure your belongings. So from there, you really you have to pray and be thankful for every day that nothing happens. Really you have to be positive because there are some very bad people out there in the world, and you just hope they're not in your community. But I digress. Number 9. Understanding the role of photos and virtual tours. How can photos and virtual tours help you shortlist properties? I'll be honest with you, you have to be very careful, especially with photos and virtual tours nowadays. Photos more than anything, because now with AI technology, I've already seen AI editing on photos, and it's not good. You have to pay attention to detail and double check everything. I'll also be very weary of photos that you see in a fisheye lens. I personally have never liked the style, but it's been very popular. The thought is that it opens up the shots so that you can see more of the room. I feel like it sets poor expectations, and people really end up being disappointed when they walk into the property. I have taken pictures with a straight lens and have gotten better results and happier clients than someone that's gone into a property that has had a fisheye lens on it, or a wide angle lens. I shouldn't call it a fisheye lens. Yeah, fisheye lens is a lot more dramatic, but a wide angle lens. I'm all for a little bit of angle. Give me a little bit of angle, but don't give me like I don't want to feel like I'm in a rap video when I'm looking at your real estate photography. And when it comes to your virtual tours, now more than anything, you have to pay attention to the quality of the tours. Make sure that it's up to date, and if it's interactive, that it's a good shot of everything that might be around. Most virtual tours will have a video component, so you might not have a virtual tour. You might just have a video component, but I've really liked the Matterport uh, virtual tours. I think they're great. And now with more 3D camera technology, you are getting the ability to do this with your phone and iPhone that has LiDAR on it. So if you have an iPhone, I believe 12 and later, you can actually um, already take 3D virtual tours. Give me one second. Oh, my co-host is here. Oh, and you can take virtual tours with a phone. Now, the quality is definitely not going to be as high def as a Matterport camera, but it's going to be great. It's going to be a really, really great shot and a great tour. Make sure it's up to date more than anything else. What are some tips for reading into what it is and isn't shown in listing photographs? Um, Make sure you're looking at virtual staging, AI editing, wide angle lenses. Ooh, oversaturation of colors. If you see really bright colors, no, something's going on because something's up. If you see weird discoloration too, that could also be a weird thing too. And yeah, more than anything else, I have fun. I enjoy more than anything else that it's so much fun looking through photographs and seeing the misses sometimes in my industry, because sometimes when people take great photographs, it's amazing. You see these properties and it's like, wow, in a whole new light. But when it's bad, it's bad. Number 10. Next steps: contacting a realtor and viewing properties. How can a realtor help you interpret listings and find hidden gems? Just look at all the stuff we've talked about just in these few minutes. It can get deep, and each listing is different. I always consult with my clients to make sure that they feel comfortable about the listings that we're talking about, because you'll see that a lot of this is not applicable to you. A lot of these homes won't even pique your interest. I work with the clients to find out what it is that they enjoy about homes, to try to get them more homes that they do want to see, because that's the name of the game. If you see the home and it's your home, I don't have to say a thing. The moment you walk in, you just know. And it's always happened that way for me. People just walk in and this is the one. And then it just becomes a matter of, hey, can we afford it? Hey, can we get it? Hey, can we do the what needs to happen to get that home? And sometimes that's the tricky part, is that home might be out of reach. That home might be the home for a lot of people. And sometimes things happen, but I'm a firm believer everything happens for a reason. And that's why you're educating yourself on this, because you know that you're on this path and eventually you'll cross this road at one point. What should you prepare for when you're going to view a property? Details. If you can, please ask about taking pictures and video, but look at the details. Look at the floors, look at the ceilings, look at the walls. It sounds so obvious, but as I'm saying this to you, look at the bathroom, look at the water, look at the sinks, look at the dryers, the washer. It just sounds so obvious. But I can't tell you how distracted people get once they're there. Once we start looking around, once they start seeing this, once they start seeing that, it can really be so exciting and such a great moment. But at the end of the day, you need to check out these things, because you could have something wrong, you could have a problem, and it could really become a big issue. So make sure you're paying attention to the details and document document everything that you can, because sometimes a good document of everything that's gone on can really save the day. And if you get any repairs done, make sure that you're holding on to your receipts. But these are all things that we can talk about with each listing individually, because sometimes the sellers don't want to disclose what they know about a property, and that's the truth of the matter. Each listing is different, so a realtor, more than anything else, can walk you through the maze and work you through the process of offering for that particular property, because it could all be different. But if you guys are joining us this evening, I really do appreciate it. Today we were talking about unlocking the secrets of real estate listings, a must watch for guide for every home buyer and seller. And the 10 things to know were the introduction to real estate listings, understanding the types of listings: for sale, pending, and sold, how foreclosures and short sales work, deciphering property types: single family homes versus condos versus townhouses, and remembering that we don't call them single family homes anymore, we call them detached homes, okay? And then number four, reading between the lines, listing descriptions, not getting so swayed with the descriptions inside the listings, because we really have to see the properties when before we buy them. Number five, the importance of square footage and lot size, understanding how much home you're buying and how much land you're buying. Number six, unpacking price per square foot, understanding that what is on the land, what is drawing the value up on that property and in the area. Number seven, navigating home features and amenities, understanding the pros and cons of having different benefits in your community versus in your own property. Number eight, the significance of location and neighborhood, knowing the difference about your community versus your actual location and how that can affect your value. Number nine, understanding the role of photos and virtual tours in listings. Virtual tours and photos are indispensable. They're not going anywhere. You just have to keep your eyes now more than ever on what you're looking at, because the eyes can be very deceived nowadays. Number 10, next steps. Co- Contacting a realtor and viewing properties. As always, you know that a realtor is a must have when it comes to buying, selling, leasing, or investing in property. And at the very least, get yourself a real estate professional that can help you walk through the process and make good negotiation decisions in your favor and work in your corner. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, I really do appreciate all of you tuning in and hanging out with me today for another live. I will see you all tomorrow for another episode. Tomorrow, we're going to be talking about open houses, do's and don'ts for buyers. So, if you want to come by and check out that one tomorrow, I will see you all then. And yeah, thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see you guys all tomorrow. Take care.